What's up, my friend?
What's up?
Welcome in.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
I honestly didn't know this was your house.
That's a funny story.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. I mean, not only did I have it on like GPS, and we've been talking about linking up for months. Obviously, as I drive to El Paso, but I just happened to come to your house.
That's a coincidence, right?
Yeah. It was. I think it was just meant to be.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know, you told me earlier something about comfort zone, and let me tell you, trying to find your house without you finding out and showing up at the exact location to do a video in your front driveway was pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, I will say I can relate to that, and I'm glad you said that, because when I saw you making a video right outside of my home behind my vehicle where I couldn't leave, that was also pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm sure there's not a lot of people that make videos directly behind your vehicle, except you, maybe.
Yeah,
except you. You make a lot in your vehicle. Yeah, you do a lot in your vehicle. But yeah, you know, the funniest thing about us meeting together and finally getting a chance to sit down and chat was that, you know, you and I connected sometime last year over Instagram. And I think the thing that inspired me the most about one of the videos I saw you when you were a first sergeant was you were out there putting in your daily steps and all that. And you were talking about how you like to do things to set the example and to continue to model like good and decent human behavior and good soldiering for so many people. That's how I connected with you. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I can. I mean, and you talk about living outside the comfort zone or doing things outside your comfort zone. That's really how I try to lead, because that's really what's got me the farthest in life. It's just stepping outside of my comfort zone. And that's what I try to show other people and try to replicate for them to do. And that doesn't mean that they need to go out there and run, you know, a 4x4x48, or go out there and hit a marathon, or get out there in the heat or the cold in the elements and do, you know, the most drastic things. But it does mean that everyone is capable of stepping outside of their box just a little bit, whatever that means for them and whatever that means for me. And so I try to do that in my life to not only enhance myself and better myself, but so that other people can see and kind of start getting curious about what they can do to take just like one step each day outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah, excuse me. You said a great word right there that really resonated with me. You said curious. You know, that was one of the things when I first started following your page that I was kind of curious. And I told you, I shared this with you earlier. I was like, hey man, let me see what this first sergeant's all about. I really like the stuff that she's saying. I like the way she's carrying herself. I like the way she's, you know, from an outsider perspective, you know, obviously being in the military myself, you know, I was curious about that. And why that resonates with me also is the fact that, like, I'm sure that when you're out doing your daily stuff, your workouts, your work with all your team at work and soldiering and all that, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are curious about maybe your story, your path, your fitness, you know, regime, all that stuff. So if I was a complete outsider and I was curious about what Rachie Ray is all about, what would be the kind of like the phrase that you would say that would make them want to come in and be in community with you?
I would say one day at a time. That's what I would say. And to turn this back on the curiosity and you reaching out to me and things like that, I live my life for myself and whoever is curious and wants to ask those questions. That's who's for me. I'm not going to try to be someone that I'm not, or, you know, make these huge strides that are not authentically me. And the thing that I've appreciated about you, and the thing that I appreciate about the circle of people that I do have in my life and that I'm blessed with, is that you were curious and you cared. You weren't curious in a critical way. You weren't, you know, judgmental. You didn't have a negative approach in your curiosity. You actually were curious, and you're a like-minded person, and, you know, you're a beast in your own right. So, you know, the fact that you came to me out of curiosity and care, that meant a lot. And when you sent your shirt and all of your swag to me, that was a whole other level of care, and I really appreciate you.
And I appreciate you wearing it. And I had some of those shirts made. It was kind of a silly thing. And look, I'm not here to like brand all this stuff, because the truth of the matter is, you know, my whole thing that I talk about is legacy, right?
Yeah.
And you know what that is on your headstone, you have your birth year and your death year, and that dash in the middle. Why I call myself Dash Legacy, because that dash in the middle is the only thing you have on this side of the earth to leave an indelible mark on your friends, your family, your loved ones. And so to kind of tie all this together, I mean, there's no doubt, obviously, when I met you in person and all the communication that we've done, there's no doubt to me why we're in community with each other and why you have such a great impact on your 1st Phorm family, your military family, you know, your own family, because it's just like it exudes out of you, your authenticity, the respect that you carry for everybody in community with. So I also want to tell you, like, it's awesome to be in community with you. It's awesome to get to know you more. And I know that we're going to be lifelong friends.
Yes, we are.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. So getting back, because I know you do a lot of silly stuff too.
I do.
You do a lot of silly stuff.
I definitely do.
So what's been like the most fun experience that you've had in this last year? Maybe not silly video or whatever, but what's something that was the most fun experience? Like deep down belly laugh or just, you know, silliness. What was the most fun you ever had this last year?
A lot of things come to my mind. And this is a very, very random one. And it doesn't have anything to do with me, but it's the very, very first thing that pops in my mind. So I'm just going to say it because I have to.
Yep.
I went to Colorado. Nikki and I went to Colorado earlier in the year. I can't remember what. I want to say it was like March or something like that. I don't know. Went to hike the incline. And so we hiked the incline. Do you know anything about it?
Nothing.
Okay, the Manitou incline. It's super steep, but it's only like a mile or maybe less even up. But it supposedly takes like 1.5 to 3 hours to hike. That's how steep the incline is.
Wow.
So we hike up it, and it's snowing. And the more we get to the top, it's like, you know, super snowing. Get to the top finally, and we are just exhausted.
Yeah.
So we still have to come down. So we waited about 30 minutes at the top. We go down it, and Nikki just decides to slide down it the whole way. So she took the incline down on her butt.
Wow. Yeah. How far?
Half of the way.
Did she get hurt?
A mile. Nope. She did
it on
totally
purpose.
Fine. Yep. Yeah, she did it on purpose.
Just left you up there.
Down. Yeah, no bruises or anything.
And
like
you
that.
were just laughing.
Yep, I couldn't do it.
Why didn't you follow?
Just couldn't do it, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, you just couldn't bring yourself to do it.
I couldn't. First thing that came to my mind, very random. I know I've had a lot of experiences, but that was super silly. Good time.
Yeah, you know, and there's actually a pointed reason why I asked you that, right? Because, you know, you and I had a lot of conversation today, and, you know, you see my videos, and, you know, some would say they're kind of somber and kind of serious and all that. And, you know, I do have a great sense of humor, but for some reason, it seems like it's hard for me to do the humor videos. The reason I asked you about the humor is because I really think that that's the place in life where we can find a lot of joy, is things that we're passionate about that we do, that we're able to laugh or laugh at ourselves and do all that stuff. And that's the other thing I really like about your videos. I shared with you earlier some of my funny ones, some of my favorite ones of yours, where you're being silly. And I'm getting to know you more. I love seeing that silly side. Do you let everybody see that silly side?
I do.
What about your soldiers?
Yep, they see it too.
They see it too, right? Like your last formation, when you were standing up there and you're saying it, and you did a video. I think what you think you're saying and what the soldiers are hearing, and they're not listening and whatever else. Yeah,
they're privy to all of that.
Yeah, and being a former first sergeant myself, like you, I will tell you that I was very theatrical as a first sergeant. I bet you're going to find that hard to believe, right?
Oh yeah, I can totally. I don't see it at all.
No, not theatrical at all. But the good point about that, and I was going to share this with you earlier about theatrics. I had a really good friend of mine tell me something about theatrics, and you and I earlier were talking about authenticity. We're talking about that. What I found transitioning from my first sergeant role is that I did have some theatrics that encompassed my entire life, because the way that I was raised in the military, that first sergeant role was very crucial and very pivotal. It's like a linchpin of the organization at the time of the company, the senior enlisted for an entire company element. And there is something to be said about the first sergeant walking out there with a little bit of swagger and always being on time, right uniform, crushing PT, all these things. So I developed this level of like theatrics that once I took the diamond off, I realized that I was still living in kind of a theatrical way. Yeah. Do you ever find yourself now, as you've gone through different positions in the military or the things that you do on the civilian side of your military career, I mean, like your hobbies and stuff, do you find that you ever get back into those roles where you're finding the theatrics in anything that you're doing?
Definitely. I want to go back to the whole first sergeant role and how you had your swagger. You probably had that from the beginning, but initially, I know you did.
Yeah.
in the beginning, I was a terrible first sergeant.
Really?
10 companies across the battalion. I could pretty confidently say that my company was 10 of 10 in the beginning. In the first 90 days, I did it all wrong. I was so black and white. I was there to correct deficiencies. I wasn't really, my motivation was, to make the best company, but it wasn't rooted in the people, and it wasn't rooted in the connection. And that's where I went wrong. I thought I was doing great by sticking to the black and white, the Army, mission is combat, fighting win the nation's wars. That's all I was seeing. And I really tore that company down. And it took me about 6 months after that to rebuild it. And from that, I learned a lot about myself and a lot about connecting with people. And I do look back now, and I still find ways to connect. And I try to always be aware of when I'm going awry and when people need me to change directions.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes looking across, we can use formation for this. Sometimes looking across at a formation and seeing how the soldiers are responding to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you have to communicate that message.
Yep.
But yet it feels like counterintuitive to like what is right.
Yeah.
Whether you're pushing out the commander's order. And look, I'm not saying, guys, it's anything illegal, unethical, or immoral. But I too know what it's like to look out at that formation and see the looks on everybody's faces, knowing dang well that you don't want to put that out, but it's kind of what you have to do. Those are definitely some tough times,
Yeah, there's so much black and white, but there's for every black and white, there's probably about 4 times more gray areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we as leaders can operate in, and if we don't learn how to maximize in that, then we're not going to be fully ourselves. We're not going to be able to lead organically a company or whatever element that we're leading. And so we have to realize that it's not all about the black and white. There's so much gray to operate in, and we should.
Yeah, that's excuse me, that's one of the things friends and we talk about all the time, especially as senior leaders, more specifically senior non-commissioned officers, is that we see a lot of senior non-commissioned officers that are hesitant to change. Yeah. Because I don't want to say the good old boy network, but because that first sergeant position, as we know, is so black and white, just like many other senior NCO positions. A lot of times people feel uncomfortable getting into the gray area because it feels like they're going against the normative behaviors that they realize the Army has been a part of, the standards and norms and traditions. And, like you, I inherited a company on my last tour that their first sergeant had kind of fallen off for medical reasons. I inherited the company, go on a deployment, and the unit was really good at unit cohesion, but their training was bad. Yeah. And the more I started to uncover the issues, I realized that the training was bad and the cohesion was very incestuous. It was not cohesion that was good. And so I too, like you, spent a lot of times breaking them down. Yep. And it was a lot of good mentors, like I'm sure you had along the way, that kind of pulled me aside and said, hey, look, you got to focus on the people. And I did. But it is hard sometimes when the Army wants us to focus so much on the mission. Although we know the Sergeant Major of the Army now has continued to push soldiers first, mission always kind of thing, a people first organization. Yeah. I would say that probably lends itself better to the position you're at now, because you strike me as a very people first person. So now that you're not in that first sergeant role and you're doing that, do you feel that you're diving more into people first?
Definitely. I definitely do. And so as a teenager, if your parents told you to do something, did you do it just because they told you?
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah, very rarely.
But if they lived it and you were able to see the benefits that they reaped from it, would you follow it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's how I try to live, and that's how I do put people first now. I can be black and white, but I can live it. And that's how people are going to want to follow me. And that's kind of what I want to do now. And I'm going into an EOA position, so I'm not really going to have soldiers, but I'm always going to have people that are watching, and everyone does, and that's regardless of rank. And I think that if we just be who we are at the best of our ability, it's going to connect, and it's going to link with someone who needs to see it, as long as we're being who we need to be at our fullest capacity. So that's what I
completely agree. And I think that's why, again, I go back to the first video that I remember seeing of yours. I connected with you immediately, and I shared with you earlier, I think the follow-on video you did was talking about, as a senior NCO, doing everything that you expect of your soldiers, going down for the ACFT and the height weight, just like everybody else, which obviously if you're a first sergeant or commander out there and you're doing your ACFT and height weight in private, you're wrong. But again, I think, there's a phrase, servant leadership, that we've all heard.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people kind of get a weird interpretation of servant leader. I also look at servant leader as also modeling all the good and decent human behaviors that we can.
Yep.
And again, I think a lot of times as soldiers, we get so focused on the military that I think we forget about those intangible things about
Yep.
dealing with people, because we have the rank differences or the organizational differences. Like I can't do that. But like you, I've also learned that digging into the people, caring for the people, taking care of the people, making yourself available for the people, and modeling for the people, you can never go wrong with that. You can never go wrong with that. The Army is always going to find another regulation, another rule, another niche somewhere that they're going to impose upon all of us. But if you've impacted those soldiers on a personal level and you've modeled for them like you have, then they'll follow you to hell, as they say.
Yeah, and it makes room for you to make mistakes and be who you are as a leader. If you're caring for the people around you, they're going to allow so much more mistakes and leeway of you if they know that you care about them and if they know that you're doing your best. If you're just trying to figure out the newest regulation and follow it to a T and bark it down someone's throat, the minute you mess up, they're going to be all over you.
They're going to be all over you.
Yep.
And with that too, it's kind of like you're building that trust also when you're doing these things. You're modeling it. You're doing everything they are. You're humping your bags off the bus like they are. And when you do that, you're creating this environment where you're creating mutual trust between, not just between leaders of an organization, but human beings, so that if and when you have a late night in the motor pool, or if and when you have a night fire, and you've got to ask your soldiers to do something that maybe wasn't scheduled, they know that you're asking them not just from the position of authority as the first sergeant or a senior leader, but you're asking them as another human. Like, hey man, let's all be on a team together. Let's go knock this task out, because you guys know that, we're kind of in this together. And if you've done all the foundational work in building that trust, then they will follow you without a problem. And they'll gladly go to the range at 2,300, knowing that you've got their back, and knowing that when it's all done, you're going to maximize their free time and all that stuff. You know, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And gladly is a good word, because we all have gone to the field, and going to the field can suck.
Yeah,
so bad.
Absolutely.
But going to the field, if you have a cohesive unit, it can be some of the best times.
Yeah, some of the most memorable times I've ever had was in the field, for sure.
And at the end of my first sergeant time, going to the field was something that we all look forward to, and that's how I knew that I had changed.
Yeah.
And they validated me in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
you kind of just step back and watch kind of the machine at work.
Yeah.
And know that you had a hand in creating some of that well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
So you talked about EOA. Let's talk about the next little bit. So you're going into your next position. So let's just say you wake up tomorrow and you're retired from the Army. So your next however many years you decide to do is all over, and you've created this amazing community with all your fitness partners and your family and your loved ones. What do you see yourself doing to continue to create your legacy and impact your legacy after the military?
So I definitely want to live the best life I can for my kids for as long as I can. That's my number one priority. And outside of that, I want to help people have the best lifestyle that they can live. And I want to help people to realize through my lifestyle that they can have more. They can create more. They can be more. And it's just a little bit at a time. It's just one step at a time. And I say that often, one step at a time, one day at a time. Say rise and grind. That's because the first thing in the morning, you have an opportunity to create a little bit of momentum that'll create a little bit more momentum throughout the day. And so I want to live my life like that and have an opportunity to help people out just in the well-being of their own lives, whatever that means for them.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I don't see any reason on this green earth why you aren't going to continue to be able to impact people just like you have in the green suit. Just spending the last couple of days with you here, it's no doubt the success that you have is all the hard work that you've done and all the love that you share with your kids and your family and your coworkers.
Yeah.
I see you doing amazing things because of your caring and genuine heart. It's evident even from the moment I walked in the door, the kind of person you are, the caliber of person you are. So I'm super awesome, super humbled and excited to have been able to come out here and chat with you and get to know you, do some do some things with you. We're not going to say what those things were. They were all appropriate, but we did some funny videos. So yeah, it's been great.
I will say that I hope we keep this connection for the rest of our lives. And I know that your mission is, you know, it's your own, and my mission is as well. But I think they're rooted in a lot of the same values, a lot of the core principles. You talk about the dash in the middle being how we create our legacy that we're going to leave behind to be remembered. And for me, doing that is just living a little bit outside the comfort zone, because almost everyone in this world today is going to live in the comfort zone, and they're not going to be remembered, to be honest. No one's going to remember them 100 years. Do you remember who was around 100 years ago from your own legacy?
Yeah, I definitely don't. Yeah.
But I bet you if we live outside of our comfort zone a little bit for the rest of our lives in the dash, that we will be remembered by maybe not our own family members, or possibly, we hope, but someone's going to remember us, and we're going to make an impact on their whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right. I mean, the stuff that I do and the stuff that you do on social media, I mean, they're parallel in so many ways, because like you, I want the best for everybody. People have often asked me, I had a guy recently, an Army guy linked up with me. He asked me, "Hey bro," not really like that, I won't say who it is, it doesn't matter. But he said, "What's your target audience? I'm really confused by your page." And, you know, I get that quite often, because as you see, sometimes I'm saying one thing, sometimes I'm saying the other. And like I was talking to you outside, I kind of go with what's on my heart. I kind of go with the experience I'm having for the day, or lessons that I've learned in the past.
Did you say not you?
No, I didn't. I actually like his page quite a bit. Like, I like his stuff. He's really good. But the point is, kind of like with you, like you just hit the nail right on the head. Like, you want to give to anybody that wants to receive. You want to give and help and use the heart and the values that God has created in you to give back to others. And that may mean helping them with a workout. It may mean helping them with a job interview. It may mean, you know, doing something else down the road, answering the phone when someone's in need at 12 o'clock at night, or being there for a soldier that may have had a bad incident happen to them, or whatever the case may be. So the point of my page and the point of this thing is, I'm hoping that things that I've gone through, fortunately and unfortunately, will help other people. Like you said, you want to continue to craft your life, living out of your comfort zone, crafting that legacy, loving on your kids, being around as healthy mentally and physically for your friends and your family and your kids and your loved ones. So there is no target for that, right? There's no, your niche is to be in community with these people that have the ability to be amazing each and every day.
Yep. Well, you've hit your target over here with this one.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. So again, I'm really appreciative that I figured out where you live. I'm really appreciative that I figured out that I'm a little bit taller than you.
I mean, just a smidge. It's not even really a big deal.
It's not really. It's not super noticeable.
Yeah, it's not.
But again, on a serious note, though, Rachel, I'm super excited that you allowed me to come over here and visit and get to know you and do some videos. But more importantly, I'm really gracious that you let me into your home, and that you provided a place for me to come and be myself, and we could talk authentically about all these things. And so this will be a lifelong friendship. There's no doubt about it, because we're both going to put the work in. Right.
Yep.
Because we got to win the day.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm living my legacy.
That's right. All right, guys. Have a good one. Rachel Raymundo Grant Smith. You can find us on Instagram at Rachie Ray and Dash Legacy 79. We look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care. That was like a long one, so I'm deaf. Oh, that was so good.